attitude. We need swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5-Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Join with me today, Craig. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Tej? How are you, man? Just wading through the Canadian Thanksgiving turkey sleeps. Was a very busy but great weekend. We had most of the family together for the first time in a couple of years while we were wading through young children illness. And last year we were supposed to go to my in-laws and they got sick, so it was the first time everybody could be together. It was crazy busy with 6 young kids running around, and thank God everybody's just healthy for now. I know you and the boys
kids are
and
better.
I've been chatting in the team chat there in the Discord, and my 2 boys were fighting something fierce for the last 3 weeks essentially, but they turned a good corner last week, and we were able to enjoy the weekend with everybody. So
good, glad to hear it. Happy Thanksgiving to all our Canadian listeners. We got to your first Tuesday trends, your first real Tuesday trends. Last week we did the advanced stat primer, and this one isn't so much of a real Tuesday trends because Craig and I were just talking, like, sample sizes are still crazy small. All of Edmonton is cold as ice. There are teams that are just not doing what they're expected to be doing, and it's because our sample size is so small. Like, I'm looking right now at Jonathan Huberdeau's player card here, right? And 3 games in, 137 point pace. Now, are we taking the over? Are we taking the under? Like, it's such an easy conversation to have, but I think there's a little bit of value to be had in, like, the lineup trends that we're going to be talking about, and different things like, projections and potential sell high opportunities, things like that. So if you guys want to find us, we are on Twitter at FHF Hockey, X if you're a stickler. Discord is definitely the place to be. We got close to 2,700 GMs hanging out in the Discord chat. We're here on YouTube. We're doing live to Twitter now. Raj got that set up. And to be honest, I don't know how to turn it off. So we're doing live to Twitter, I guess, now. But yeah, let's get into these storylines, injury news, and some lineup trends. I want to start off with the lineup trends. Craig, you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. OEL on QB on power play 1, QB1 of that power play. Is this just because the team has yet to really find an offensive groove? Is this something that you see maybe happening for a long period of time? What's the vibe up there right now?
Yeah, look, I think, we had the Hockey Night in Canada rolling almost all Saturday, which was great with all the family there. But I think the power play has been an issue for like a season and a half. And as much as Toronto fans, including myself, love Morgan Riley as a core piece of the team, I think the majority of people knew that when OEL came in, this was at least going to be a trial basis thing, right? You saw him kind of man PP1 with Florida last year when they had Montour out, and he did an admirable job. So he did get a look there on Saturday in the latter part of that game. He had 5 shots on goal. He skated over 25 minutes time on ice during that game, and almost 4 minutes of that was on the power play. He looked good. Look, if that deployment holds, I think he pushes that 40-point floor. But on a fantasy team, and I don't know what you think, Tej, I still don't think he's much more than a 4th or 5th defenseman unless he holds that deployment for the entirety of the season. And because Toronto has been slow out of the gate, even their big boys like Matthews, like, he's doing his thing. He's shooting a lot, but he's been unlucky. He's hit several posts. Nylander hasn't gotten going, and either has Marner, and Tavares is still sick, I believe. Until they find a groove, I think they're going to kind of maybe move Riley and OEL kind of interchangeably on this to see who can actually get the power play buzzing. But when he was on there on Saturday, the puck movement looked better than it did with Riley. What that means long term, I'm not sure. And let's be real here. We tried this experiment with Klingberg and it didn't work, and they resorted back to Riley. And I know Klingberg and OEL are different players, but you know, OEL started strong with Florida and he faded as the season went on. Even in the playoffs, he wasn't getting much more than 17 minutes time on ice. I don't see how that doesn't occur here. Um, but like I
What's
said, if he
you look
maintains the deployment, I think you ride that while you can.
I'm totally with you. I think it's eventually all roads lead back to Riley. But looking at this right now, and I do have a visual up on the screen for anybody watching on YouTube. One thing I want to say is this power play calculation that's going on down here, it's fucked. So don't listen to it. His power play time on ice did not go up by 1,000%. I just need to figure out what's going on there. This is something I kind of like whipped up or fixed today. But what is really reassuring is his shots on goal per 60 last year, 5.02. It's up to almost 10. So like we're talking about a doubled rate in shooting production from OEL and 4 extra minutes time on ice. Like things are looking pretty good in terms of the short term, because I do think this eventually winds up back uh, towards Riley. And Scoresburg here in the chat is asking about this guy McMahon taking reps on line 2. We're seeing like Matthew Nyes on line 1, power play one, like we're seeing so much going on. And I think a lot of what's happening, I can't really speak to what Berube plans to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he is trying to get things going. Like
I
this is
think what
not, it's just it's not what's expected from them.
No, and I'm not surprised that they're coming slow at the gate offensively. To be honest, like Bruve's system's so different than Keefe's, and their depth at wing is very thin. And I really like Bobby McMahon, what he brings to the team. I think he's going to be a player that Bruve loves, but I think you're going to see some rotation at the line 2 and line 3 wing spots. With Patches in there as well, who's looked okay. He looks like he can still play, but you know I think Nyes holds that spot on line 1. Does he hold the power play spot when Tavares comes back? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Right. So like I think that's a minor opportunity to capitalize on that. But I think what they only have 2 games this week, so like it's really minor. And who knows? And I think why you're seeing kind of the juggling of lines there in Toronto and the slow start offensively is because they're still trying to figure out how Berube wants them to play. How is he going to roll lines? What the power play is ultimately going to look like in terms of Berube's ask versus playing for Keith is going to be completely different. And I think that's going to take a little bit of time to settle in, even for the big boys there.
And one thing that's really nice about Nyes is he's seeing like fantastic time on ice, and a
Yeah.
lot of that is going to be the power play time on ice that he's seeing because of Tavares being out. So I don't know that Nyes is somebody that's like a long-term hold if you're in a more shallow league, but of course that line 1 exposure is going to be just as valuable as it has ever been next to Matthews and Marner. I think as they start to get chemistry and stuff like that.
Yeah, and to answer Scoresburg's question, I think once Tavares comes back, your second line is Nyes, most likely Willie, Nyes, uh, and Tavares.
Tavares,
I,
yeah.
I don't I don't I don't see McMahon holding that spot. He'll probably go back down to the checking line on the third line.
Monahan, man, 20 plus minutes, time on ice, 3 points, 1 power play point, 2 shots on goal on Saturday. Chinnikov averaging over 19 minutes time on ice over the first 2 games. He's got 4 points himself. 2 of them are power plays, 7 shots on goal. That's what I love about like Chinnikov and some of these guys like Voronkov. There are a bunch of shooters when you look under the hood at shots on goal per 60. And there's a lot of guys that can have these like flashes. And I do think there's all sorts of ingredients there for somebody to be relevant for like a week or two. And if Chinnikov is going to be there and if he's running with it, I think that's some sustainable deployment there. DeBrincat
Yeah,
on power play 2 in Detroit. Do you got something on Columbus here?
yeah. Look, I think I threw them into the dock just because somebody's got to score there, and losing Papa Boone really hurts for everybody that loves him out in fantasy land. But he is arguably their best forward as in terms of overall rounded player. But the way Chinnikov has been playing, and like you touched on Nyes' overall deployment and his time on ice, Chinnikov is getting a very similar deployment right now, and I think that's more of midterm hold see what he can do because he is a shooter. Because, like I said, somebody has to score there. And then Monahan is Monahan. He doesn't do anything hits and blocks wise. But if you're in a face-offs league, I think he has some depth value for you just because he's going to be the line one, power play one center for the duration of the season because Jenner's gone long term. So I do think there's some depth value there, at least in an interim basis, to see how that kind of plays out.
I'll give you somebody's gonna score, but somebody's got to score. I don't know. It's Columbus. Like
I know
them
it's
them
yucky.
getting
It's
shut out is
yucky.
not unheard of.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Like Columbus, their schedule this week is not so pretty. Next week, looking at it again, they're at the very bottom. So I mean, these are going to be tough weeks to be holding somebody like that. So I think just keep them in your back pocket because 2 weeks from now they are one of the good teams. This is the 28th through the 3rd of November. You're looking at Columbus with 4 games, 3 off nights. That's a man. This is going to be a fun week to stream. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 perfect schedules. 1, 2, 3. We'll save that for a couple weeks, but look ahead in the schedule. It's pretty intense. Yeah, DeBrincat on power play 2, JT Confer's on power play 1. This is just another team trying to get things going. Like if you remember Billy Madison, they're throwing pickles at the wall and finding out which one gets the bottom first. And if anything sticks, it's going to happen that way. Sider is on power play 1. Gus has been getting looks, and I don't know what's up with him. I couldn't find him in the roster.
He was healthy scratch tonight, from what I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So that's a fall from grace. I think if there ever was one, like went from top power play, people being pretty excited, kind of that same Goss despair level excitement, I guess. Like, we're not taking him early or anything, but this is what's expected about these. Like, he's not a good defenseman. He's a good offensive defenseman, but he's not a good defenseman. And I think when coaches see a blunder that really gets under their skin, that's what happens to guys like this. So there is risk with it.
Teacher being slightly nice. Maybe he's just not good, right? Like this happens to him all the time.
I'm a Flyers fan. I had Shane Goss despair, Keith Yandel, Tony D'Angelo, all within the span of like 5 years. All right. And now I have Rasmus Ristolainen. So I have a very good understanding of what makes a not good defenseman. With some middling offensive talent there. Speaking of the Flyers, they're doing things to their lines like he's Tortzen. Lawton, Couturier, and Brink as your line 1. Forster, Luchenko, and Travis. Who had Jet Luchenko making the NHL on their bingo card? Please tell me. Owen Tippett, Frost, and Michkov as your line 3. But keep an eye on what actually
that can't
happens
be your
with the line.
Like, come on.
No. And this, I don't even know what to make of it. So the Flyers, I'm looking up their last game here on the shift charts just so I can see their line combinations, because Tortorella is such a nightmare when it comes to this kind of stuff. So Calgary and Philly, I'll throw it up on the screen here in a second. Let's see. Present, share screen.
Two games after a strong win too. Like, and then you're messing with your lines already. Like, I don't get it.
Look at this. This is what a real team's supposed to do. Like 3x3 blocks. That's your line 1, right? It's just a gentle fade. Everybody has a little bit of color, but your first line was Konechny, Frost, and Michkov. Tippett, Forster, Paling here, Brink, Farabee, Couturier. It's just, it fades in. There's no like distinct lines. So that's what you're getting out of Tortorella. And I think you're going to get more of that. So if you see Michkov on line 3 and your local Michkov owner is freaking out about it, I say knock on their door. Colorado, Ross Colton's on line 1, not Nikolai Kovalenko. Joel Eriksson Ek should be back Tuesday when this podcast hits the airwaves on Spotify and whatnot. The rest of the injuries, we talked about Tavares being sick. We talked about Matthew Tkachuk. They both have tummy aches. So Matthew Tkachuk's going to miss the whole fucking week, which sucks because my entire team is on this goddamn injury list. Let's just go through the rest of my team first because I feel like I have to get this out there. I'm playing one of the fantasy puck guys in the content creator league, Linus Olmark. He's out. Joel Eriksson Ek, he'll be back. So thank God. Vince Dunn day to day. It's my whole team. It's nuts. And then Celebrini's finally on IR. Devon Tays is out with a lower body injury. That one just came out maybe a few minutes ago. Adam Boquist is back. Did I miss anybody here on the injury list? I'm sure there's somebody, but yeah, we're 15 minutes in. What do you say we get to the Discord submissions? You want to start off with Rasmus Anderson?
Yeah, so I think they were talking about how hot he started, and you made a note, like I would say the entirety of the Flames is off to a hot start.
Yeah.
But Anderson himself, he's still firmly on power play 2. Uyghur's still on PP1. He doesn't have any power play points, but he has 2 multi-point games to start the season. What are they? 4-0 or 3-0 now? 4-0, right? I think
They're doing good.
4-0,
They're
right?
doing good. Nobody really had that on their.
So he has 1 goal, 1
Yeah.
assist in the Vancouver game, and he had 1 goal, 2 assists in the Edmonton game. Again, I'm not a huge Anderson fan. I don't know if he does do some he blocks a bit, but other than that, if he isn't contributing offensively, I'm not a huge fan of his. Obviously, I think Uyghur is a much more superior defenseman, and it didn't take, what did it take, half a season last year for him to kind of take ownership of time on ice and PP1. Yeah, like, again, is he like an OEL, TJ? Like, is he that 4th or 5th defenseman that you can comfortably kind of put in and out in a week where Calgary has a good schedule, if you are a GM out there that holds 5 defensemen? Right?
Defensemen are so hard to drop as it is, even like the bad ones. And then when you get 2 multi-point games like this, like their value props themselves up in your brain, so you don't really have a chance to even consider dropping somebody. But on the screen here, I have Uyghur and Rasmus Anderson compared in terms of power play time on ice. Uyghur firmly on power play 1, Rasmus Anderson on power play 2. Nothing's going to change there. Uyghur had 2 power play goals so far this season, so that's going to stay the same in terms of the roles there. So it's good to get this production out of Rasmus Anderson, and while Calgary's running hot, like, it sucks because Calgary had a bad schedule last week. Calgary has a bad schedule this week, so it's not like you can really run to the waiver wire and get any of these guys, because it's 4 games through 2 weeks. It's really tough cheese there. For Rasmus Anderson, I don't think that this sort of production is going to be in the cards, like, long term. So just enjoy it.
He's a 40-point defenseman, right? Like, and a secondary scoring option behind Mackenzie Uyghur. Like, he's not going to put up double-digit goals like Uyghur has the opportunity to do. He's more of an assist defenseman anyways. So I agree with you, Tej. Like, you don't drop defensemen that are offensively able, but I'm not going to battle for him if he were available, or somebody was trying to trade for him during this hot streak, because the whole Flames team is red hot right now, including both their goalies, who you don't really know who their 1A 1B is right now. So I think you got to let that kind of temper and kind of settle and before you say, Rasmus Anderson is a valuable keepsake in your starting lineup week in and week out.
Next up, we got Jake Neighbors here, submitted by Heinze. And I've got another visual for this one. It's not the same kind of year that we're getting out of Jake Neighbors. The shots have dropped off something fierce, and that was always something that he was really, really good at, his shot production. Time on ice is up, and the shots on goal per 60 is down. That's not exactly what you like to see. Time on ice is up almost 10%, and shots on goal are down like 30% since last year. The shooting percentage, obviously, he hasn't found the back of the net. 27 goals last year, so that's what we're counting on him for, is those goals. 27 goals, 11 assists from Neighbors last year. His bread and butter is scoring goals, and it just hasn't happened yet. On ice shooting percentage is up, so he's just straight up not getting in on anything. IPP is 0, obviously, with no points. This is, I mean, the tides have got to change for somebody like Jake Neighbors, especially with the deployment that he's holding. It's just, that's not something I expect to continue. So for me, I'm betting on a Jake Neighbors bounce back at some point, but he's one of those guys that I feel like if you see him on the waiver wire, he's not really perking your interest, especially with 0 points. But as soon as he gets on a hot streak, like if you want the okay, like I'll co-sign dropping Jake Neighbors, especially in a week where there's not a good schedule for St. Louis. But I think as soon as he gets going, the hair trigger is going to be there when it comes to picking him back up for me. Yeah,
Raj is here,
Raj is
Cage.
talking shit in
And
the
I,
in the
I
chat.
just want everybody to know what he's referring to is that he started chirping me early last week in the listener league because we're in the same tier. Because he was pounding me
All
3 days in, and then I ended up winning our matchup in week one. So
right.
we uh, we put that to rest for now, Raj.
There will be a Armin Safari would like us to answer what should he do with his entire team? Beniers, Lekkonen, Pospisil, Kent Johnson, Tisplakov, whatever his name is, Jack Quinn, Anaheim power play defenseman. So Zellweger is 0 points. A lot of Anaheim is just straight up underperforming. Jack Quinn, same. Buffalo, not doing it. Splakov, forgive me for mispronouncing that. I still haven't YouTubed how to say his name. I don't know.
He looked good for one game. He looked bad for two.
So
I
that's what
don't
you're
know.
going to get. Lekkonen, if you got the IR spots, go for it. Beniers, I feel like you can find another goalie, hopefully. Like if you're, I don't know. For me, that's just an easy drop. Pospisil, this one's a bit strange. He's getting 0 power play time, and a lot of his value comes from bangs. So if you're looking for bangs, just hold on to him for that. Kent Johnson, I mean, you get what you get. That's Columbus, so it's kind of a
I would punt Kent Johnson into the sun.
yeah.
Like he hasn't
What
done
else?
anything in 3 years. Like
What I'll say on Zellweger, I think he's getting like 14 minutes time on ice, and Minchukov is getting like 22 or something. But that top power play, like Anaheim's got a really good schedule, so I don't know if I'd rather have Minchukov or Zellweger at this point. I lean Minchukov just because he has like double the time on ice, and
he might fall backwards into 5-on-5 points as
yeah,
well as
there's
the
got to
power
be
play,
something
right?
there. So we'll see. We'll see what actually happens with that. Yeah, we're going to skip the next part because I haven't built the tool that keeps track of this. But let's get into the hot guys. Jonathan Huberdeau, this is going to be the first one here. There's a lot to say on Jonathan Huberdeau. Like it seems like he's back. This is one of those exciting kind of things, like a guy you root for, or at least a guy I root for, because I don't know, I really enjoy Jonathan Huberdeau and what he's able to put together. But what I've got here is he's got 3 goals, 2 assists, 2 shots per game. So that already the red flag's starting to come up. Over 4 minutes power play time on ice per game, which is awesome. And that's almost double what he was getting last year. Where's that? Oh, yeah. Don't even worry about it. 1,500% increase. No, that's wrong. Mantha is off to a flaming hot start too. Like all of Calgary is kind of on edge. Mantha, 2 goals, 2 assists, 6 shots on goal. He's got half the power play time on ice that Huberdeau has. What I do like to see from Huberdeau, it kind of leads me to believe that, this 137 point pace is not going to keep up. But if I wanted to bet the over on his 53 point pace from last year, it'd be pretty easy. He's getting like 7% more time on ice. His shots have gone up like 13%. Where am I at? Points per 60 has doubled, but that's kind of like tied to the unsustainability. I don't know. What's your read on Huberdeau before I kind of get to a verdict on this guy?
Yeah, look, we all know that obviously the whole what Calgary is doing right now is unsustainable as a team, but we know the upside and the ceiling that Huberdeau possesses, and we know that they're going to lean on him heavily uh, offensively. He's going to get all the deployment. He's going to get power play 1 deployment. If he can even slightly lean to his skill and his shots on goal can increase from last year, I think I said it on the week preview with you and Raj. He's going to walk ass backwards into 60 points. And with his ability, like you said, with so many people that root for him, if he can just turn that around, pushing the 70-point threshold is not unrealistic. Even if the whole Calgary team doesn't sustain what they're doing, which we both agreed before we came on that they're not going to. Like they're not a good, complete offensive team. They might be, you know, a lingering team because they work hard and have a good work rate and that type of things with players like Blake Coleman and stuff like that. But Huberto's their best offensive piece. If he can take a step and he's finally comfortable there in that system, yeah, I totally agree with you. Pushing 70 points and a guy that most people drafted what, Teach, in the last three
Last
rounds of
round.
their
Yeah.
draft, last round of the draft because of what happened over the last 2 years.
Yep.
If you can get a 70-point player or 65-point player with upside there, you're laughing, right? And he's dual eligible. You know he's never going to really lose his deployment either at this point. So I think you're in a comfortable spot to just let's ride this out and see if it's real. And then if he fucking falls back again like he did in the last 2 years, you just kick him, just punt him right into the sun.
I
Right?
did punt him, and I hope I don't regret it. Hey, it was just based on Calgary's bad schedule this week, and it's a bit of a bang heavy league that I dropped him in, and so I kept Blake Coleman. Um, Not working out for me the way I had hoped, but yeah, I mean it's really good to see Huberto off to this hot start. The 137-point pace. I'll say it again. It's an easy under to bet. These early season hot streaks, like they get really hyperbolic when you pace them out. So I think it's foolish when we're talking about, oh, this guy's on a 240 goal pace. Like, no, obviously he's not. Like the pace, yeah, but it's sustainability, no. And I don't think Huberto is going to be on a 2 point per game production for the rest of the season. But I think it makes betting the over on his 53-point pace an easy bet as well. I mean, he's already 10% the way there, and there's like 95% of the season left. So it's a numbers game, and the law of averages says he's probably going to beat that 53-point pace. Calgary's such an enigma right now. Like their lines are very strange. I've got Huberto's 17-27 time on ice against the Oilers. Kadri had 17:40, and Backlund with a little bit of PK time put together 20 minutes and 30 seconds. So Daily Faceoff has him on line 3, and technically that is true. But Backlund, he's getting his time on ice from the PK, and he's getting 13 more seconds than Kadri. So I don't know if like as far as sustainability goes, no, what he's doing is not going to continue. And Huberto has never really made his money scoring goals. So I think things start to even out a little bit. Connor Zary is one that I'm really watching. His time on ice is over 20 minutes as well. And just absolute smoke show deployment. Like a power
He's
play one.
actually looked really good, Tej.
Yeah, I think he's going to be someone that surprises us this year. So for me, 50% shooting from Huberto. His on-ice shooting percentage is almost 30%. This is a Calgary team who has gone up against Vancouver, Philadelphia, Edmonton. And this is Edmonton while they're in the midst of whatever it is that they're going through right now. So I think once
they got problems.
yeah. So there's going to be a wake-up call for Calgary once these teams start getting ready to play. And if I had to project Huberto the rest of the season, at an over-under of 67.5, like where would you land on that?
I'm gonna take the over, man. I'm gonna
take the over.
I think he's gonna push the 70-point threshold. If he can do even in the middle of what you just showcased there on your tool, I think he can push that 70-point threshold.
I think I'm under on 67.5, and that's more a statement on Calgary than it is on Huberto. Could be a good sell high candidate, I think. Like if anybody's willing to bite, and the targets I would be looking at are guys that are comfortably in that 70-point area. Like guys like, I mean, it's going to be hard to get Batherson after tonight's game, but like Rupe Hintz, Nikolai Ehlers is a bit down right now. Alex Tuck is certainly down right now. Somebody like Seth Jarvis or Carter Verhaeghe, who's in the midst of a cold streak himself. Notwithstanding whatever happened tonight, I didn't check his box scores. But again, I'm just throwing out some names here. Like I'm not saying that, a 1-for-1 is going to work in your league specifically, but these are just guys to kind of like build a framework of who you should be shopping around if you're thinking about selling somebody like Huberto. So knock on some doors.
I'm taking Hubes over Ehlers, Tej.
Are you really?
I'm taking it. I'm doing it.
I wish we were in a league together.
I don't. Look, we don't have to get a conversation. We can do it next Tuesday, Trends, but Ehlers just doesn't get the deployment. For whatever reason, Winnipeg doesn't trust him 5v5, doesn't trust him to play a uh full ice game, and he ends up, like, if you look at his deployment to start the year, he's still in that same genre, in that 13 to 17 minutes time on ice. Like, I don't see how that, even if has that exceptional skill set, which we do know he has, until he gets premium deployment, how can he be unleashed?
Yeah,
I
14
don't see
minutes
the
time on ice last
reality.
game. That's
Yeah, it's still the same
woof.
reality that Ehlers hopefuls have been hoping for. It hasn't changed, right?
Yeah, I was
So
just checking out that the line combinations from the Winnipeg and Minnesota Wild game. Philip Gustafsson is somebody that we rightfully could have had on this hot streaks here, but Samuel Montembeault is the flavor of choice when it comes to goalies. Tonight, it has shown that he does bleed.
he, he isn't he,
One,
he isn't made of steel, apparently.
yes. What was it? Agent Smith said he was like, or no, it was the Merovingian. If anybody's a Matrix nerd, you see, he bleeds just like a regular man, or something. It was when they were fighting in that cool like chateau in France or whatever. Anyway, that's enough nerd for today. Montembeault, before tonight's game, he had 1 goal allowed on 71 shots, a 986 save percentage. He's played Ottawa and Toronto, and he handed Toronto their first shutout in years, I believe it is. Montreal is better than they were last year, but I still don't think they're good.
No, they're not. They're not good.
No.
No.
So and they do look good. All right, I'm going to give you that. But all the stats that I put together were prior to tonight's game, and I think they did look good tonight too. Really good tic-tac-toe passes. I was watching Slafkovsky. I saw that tip-in goal. I thought they put together some really strong looks. Would I trade Montembeault for somebody more stable? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Do I think Montembeault keeps this up? No. Do I think he's going to be a good goalie to roster? Probably in stretches. So if you can trade, like, people who own Markstrom right now are freaking out. So if you struck gold on Montembeault early, maybe you try to red paperclip your way into somebody that's not going to need to get dropped 2 weeks from now. And then the guy that you pick up 2 weeks from now is going to need to get dropped 2 weeks from then. And like, why not just try to get somebody that is going to give you average goaltending the rest of the way?
I'm just saying, trade Montembeault for Skinner. The Oilers are going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the Habs
I think that's a good idea.
Are not good, right? Like, and Montembeault's going to teach? He's going to post something like, most likely, because he's a decent goalie, he's going to post something like Mrazek did last year. Around 18, 19 wins, 900 save percentage, somewhere in there.
That's where it landed. Yeah.
That's an okay around an average, above average goalie in the league. Marginally not good for fantasy. But like, I'm flip Montembeault for Skinner. I'm doing that all day because the Oilers are going to figure it out for sure.
I think the leagues that I'd really be trying to move him in would be like qualitative leagues where, the quality stats have a heavy say in your results. So goals allowed, save percentage, goals allowed average. If their categories, or if goals allowed is over index in your points league, to the point where like 4 goals against a game is going to put you negative, I think Montembeault is going to start to rear his face, and he's going to show you what Montreal is all about. For anybody that's on the other side of the coin, the only way I would want to acquire Montembeault is if he's a free agent. So if somebody's trying to sell you Montembeault, I think that's a bad call. But also, I'm going to be a little snake in the grass here and tell you, if you have Montembeault, try and trick your league mates, and that's going to be the thing. So let me take you through some of the stats here. So before tonight, obviously, it was his first showing with goals saved above average in the positives in his career. So yes, Montreal is a little bit better than they were, but unless Montembeault goes on an absolute world-beating bender, I don't think there's any way that there's 100% quality start percentage, a positive goal saved above expected, and a stellar season on the horizon. Montreal is still giving up the second most shots against per 60. Only Detroit is ahead. They're giving up the third most high danger chances against per 60, and Detroit and Tampa are ahead. They have the highest expected goals against per 60 in the league. They are bad in defensive environment. They have the worst Fenwick 4 percentage per 60 in the league. They are not controlling offense or driving offense. They are being bailed out by Montembeault right now. The defense is not helping. The offense is not giving Montembeault the sustainable parachute of offensive support. And for reference, second most shots against per 60 this year. Last year, they were 6th, and Montembeault was a 900 goalie with just above a 50% win rate. Third most high danger chances against per 60. Last year, they were 5th, and Montembeault was worse than he is currently doing. This year, they have the highest expected goals against, and last year they were 3rd. Montembeault did worse last year. They are worse this year. Last year, they controlled offensive possession 21% more, and Montembeault is somehow better this year. And I just don't buy it. This is very shaky to me.
If you don't have one of the three from their top line, Matheson, or maybe this Hudson kid, or whatever else, however you say it, who seems like a pretty dynamic offensive defenseman, get out of Montreal. Get out.
I know that the 0G rush is getting to your head, and if you went 0G, chances are it's because maybe you're not confident in your ability to evaluate goaltending, or maybe you're avoiding the volatility that is attached to a position that's tied so closely with the team environment and the team results. And I'll tell you this, the environment there is not conducive to good goaltending for over any length of time. You'll get these stretches. Yes. So if Monty is your 0G guy and you don't have a backup plan already, you should get one. Montreal only has 4 back-to-backs between now and Christmas. Montembeault is going to get worked. Their next dozen games: Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, the Islanders, the Rangers, St. Louis, Philly, Seattle, Washington, Pittsburgh, Calgary, Jersey, and Toronto. So I only see 4 games in there: Los Angeles, the Rangers, New Jersey, and Toronto, that might be really tough. So, I mean, there's a bunch of real gimme games in there. So it's not really tough opponents over the next 10 games. So I would try to find, collect your stats now and hope that it works out to the point where maybe you do want to ship this guy out.
He was much better. He was much better at home last year too. I streamed him in a lot of their home matchups last year, and that paid dividends when I needed a streaming goalie. So that's something to keep in mind. But I agree with you, Tej. They don't play a defensive structure. I would rather be leaning on Earson and Fedotov or from your team, because they at least play a defensive structure in front of them that limits shots on goal. Montreal doesn't play that type of hockey, so he's just going to get peppered, right?
Yeah.
So
I'll say this: 14,000 people added Casey DeSmith yesterday. It was a shutout versus Seattle, so good on you. That was the right move. Today, the number 1 added player, Paul Cotter, right behind him, Jake Allen, another shutout. Great.
Paul Cotter, he's in the top 10 in scoring in almost every fantasy setting.
But what I'm getting at is people need goalies. So if you have Montembeault and you're able to move him, you might be able to sell high at a certain point. I don't know what his stats looked like tonight. I was watching the game a little bit. Yeah.
6 and an 833, I think.
6 goals.
Yeah.
I left when it was I left when Montreal was up. Holy shit.
6-3.
Pittsburgh won?
Yeah, 6-3 Pittsburgh.
Holy fuck.
So Monty was
all right.
5 against on 30 shots.
Hell yeah, bud.
833.
Malkin with a goal and 2 assists. That's my dude.
Oh, Ricky Rax too off of the
Rax, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Rickard Rackle had himself a game.
He's still not getting good. I don't like the time on ice though. Come on. Give him something. Don't tell me Beauvillier is the guy. He's not. He's not the guy for line 1. He's not.
So you got a little bit here on Dilly Guns. Yeah.
Look,
I don't want to rain on the parade because he's so much fun, but yeah, there's a little bit of unsustainability here. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I love the kid. I know you and I have talked about it. His release, his shot is just disgusting. I just want everybody to be aware. Yes, he has 5 goals in their first 4 games. The whole team did not look good today. So take today aside, he's looked really good to start. But if you look a little deeper, he is still not getting like premium time on ice. He's only around just under 15 minutes time on ice. Uh, so I think obviously the goal scoring is unsustainable. He's done this on 12 shots on goal. I think this is kind of similar to what you said about Huberto. Uh, his goal, I think his goal pace, I did the numbers. I think it's like 105 right now. He's obviously not
See if
scoring
I can get
100
him up.
he's obviously not scoring 105 goals. But there was a couple of points that I wanted everybody to say because I have him. I took him late in a couple of drafts. He comes from that position of scarcity and right wing. So in the first 2 games, from a power play perspective, he was only getting around 50 seconds. So what, like a shift and a half on the power play, maybe a full shift. But in the last 2 games, he's been getting upwards and over 3 minutes on the power play, which is great for a guy who can score. But I think realistically, Tej, and I don't know what you think. I think there is 30 goal potential here. I think he'll probably land in that 55 to 65 point range.
Yeah.
Overall, Utah's looked pretty good offensively. They looked like they still can't stop anybody from scoring. They look like they're going to have to heavily lean on Ingram throughout the season, like they did last year, who started off pretty well. I know it's a small sample size, but I still like the kid. I think he's definitely can fit into a roster if he can keep up the shots on goal. Um, I obviously think there's going to be regression here, but I still think that you could realistically see him score 30 goals. And if his time on ice can continue to rise, it looks like they're giving him some more sustainable time on the power play. I think he can push that 30 goal ceiling. So I do like it, but is he a sell high candidate for some of
Mm,
the cold guys?
no.
I would argue maybe a lot of people don't really know a lot about him. Uh,
But there's so much, like, people that know about him are either like they own him and don't want to get rid of him, or they
yes,
wish they took him. Like, there's so much hype here. And I do think like we're on the horizon of another Wyatt Johnson like season. Like there's gonna be real potential here. And if we're talking 65 points, I'm thinking the over. What I
yep,
do want to see is this time on ice to go up a little bit, 14,
100%.
under 15 minutes. That's no good. But his shots on goal, man, per 60, they're up
Nasty.
60% on the year, which is nuts.
This
And
guy shoots,
like
man. He
he's
shoots.
shooting, his pace has gone up, even though he's lost 10% of his time on ice. Nuts stuff. So like if that if that time on ice comes back up, I think 30 goals is well within reason.
100%.
And 30 assists on the back of this team that's looking real good, that's rejuvenated, that has a real dressing room this year. And I think the vibes are super high. So this is Utah's a fun team this year. I think they're going to really thrive. 42% shooting, that's not something that's going to
No.
continue. So yes, I think Dylan Gunther is probably not going to go a goal per game, and he'll probably get an assist at some point. So that'll
Look,
all happen.
I've watched all their games to start the season. I think I mentioned to you and the guys, I watch a lot of the late Western Conference games just because of my dad responsibilities. I don't actually get to see a lot of the Eastern Conference games. I usually watch the tail end of the third period in those in the Eastern Conference. And like you said, there's super fun team. They are running and gunning all over the place. They look pretty bad today. They just got fucking stepped on by New Jersey. But it looked like the whole team kind of just had a down game. It wasn't just Gunther. But like I personally, I think this kid's going to push the 40 goal mark. And I agree with you. Like I think the 65 point threshold is within the realm of possibilities. But for those two numbers to hit, you got to get more time on ice,
I
and
feel like, yeah,
hopefully that grows as the season goes. Right?
35 goals would be a fun over under. I think,
Yes,
granted
agreed.
that he plays a full season.
Yeah, agreed.
Obviously has to be the caveat
Yep.
on that. But yeah, you got Barrett Hayton here, 5 points in 5 games, 12 shots, looking just as good. Good time on ice there. Line 1, power play 1. This is a different Barrett Hayton than I'm used to seeing.
He looks, man, and that and for people that don't know, when he did come back from his injury, that Keller Schmaltz Hayton line last year looked phenomenal. he just missed so much time. I think took him a while to get up to speed with the two of those guys, because Schmaltz was out for a long period of time last year as well. We never know with Schmaltz. He's probably going to miss upwards of 20 games at some point. He always seems to do that.
Yeah.
Does that give Gunther an opportunity to skate with Hayton and Keller? But if Keller and Hayton can stay together and that chemistry can build, and Hayton can stay healthy, I know he's had some trouble staying healthy as well. Like, I think he's a sneak, and I'm assuming a lot of people have got him off waivers at this point. Unfortunately, he's a center only, but he could be a good depth piece for a lot of rosters out there if he can continue with this deployment and stay healthy for sure.
Man, brutal for Dylan Gunther tonight. 13:48 time on ice.
But if you look at the whole team, all the deployment was weird, and that game was just bad. It was just like they got stomped and like couldn't get anything going against them. Like they only had 20 shots on goal. Right.
See all this collateral damage over here? That's the coach freaking out. Changing lines, getting people together. He had Dylan Gunther actually playing with Schmaltz, Keller, Hayton for 4 minutes of his game. He played with Schmaltz, Keller, and Hayton. So, but Dylan Gunther technically on line 4 tonight. That's brutal. Playing with Cooley and
that's not good.
McBain.
Teach, we're
not what you want to see.
Some of these guys, and then you get into the games today. It's not good.
It was a weird game, but
even Hayton only had 14:37 time on ice.
Yeah,
right? Like
the top forward 17:52, 14:37 for Hayton. Kevin Stenlund had 17:31. Doan had 15:46. So it was very evenly spread out. There's not like a lot of low time on ice. It was just they were rolling lines, which is really, really wild.
Which he hasn't done, which he didn't do for the first 3 games of their season, which is really strange.
Yeah.
So
I want to move on to the cold streaks, man. What do you think about that? Let's do some of that.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Brandt Clark was cold up until tonight, man. 3 power play assists tonight in an 8-7 overtime loss for the Los Angeles Kings.
That game was nuts. That game was
nuts. Like, Alex Laferriere doing me a solid, scoring a couple goals. Beauvillier didn't do anything for me tonight, I don't think, actually, because the last I left.
You're 2 for 2, man. You're 2 for 2 as far as I'm concerned.
Did Bo get anything? No.
He didn't.
Yeah. But he had 2 shots, 3 hits, 17:30 time on ice.
That's better. Yeah.
But Laferriere, he's rocking it. But this is about Brandt Clark. Those 3 power play assists were huge. I mean, I feel like what do I want to say? The confidence level on Brandt Clark was starting to break, and that wasn't what people wanted. I mean, he's the top power play guy there. Brandt Clark with 17:35 time on ice. Jordan Spence 13:31. Very weird.
He had 5 minutes 6 seconds on the power play, and he's had that for the last 2 games.
So, who's that?
Brandt Clark.
Yeah, it's it's his, and that's what's happening. Like Gavrikov played 25 minutes. Burrows played 15. Edmondson played 22. And Mikey Anderson played 19:48. Very weird game with their defensemen here. But Kopitar, Kempe, Laferriere, that's your top line. Brandt Clark, is there anything worth looking into here in terms of his sustainability? Like, obviously, I think things are going to start to turn around. And unless they start to turn around in a big way, then I don't think this honeymoon on Power Play 1 continues when Doughty gets back. The shots are fucking brutal. 2.31 shots on goal per 60. That's down almost 65% from last year. He's on a 55 shot pace on the year. That's less than 1 shot a game. He has 2 shots through 3 games. But yeah, the 3 points, all power play points. So that puts him at a point per game pace. Not buying into that. His IPP is 75%. I mean, I'm willing to look the other way, but this was a huge game, an absolutely insane game. So I think a lot of what happened today is something that you can write off, because this, you're not going to get 8-7 games all the time. But I do think this was a little bit of his averages starting to come back to where they should be. So like all the expected points, right? Like you're finally cashing in on them. Yeah.
Look, I agreed with you when we first
Blocks are good
discussed
though.
this after the Doughty injury. I'm not sure that Clark has sustainable value because I don't think he's going to ever surpass that 18 minutes time on ice, regardless of power play deployment. So you're looking at, again, regardless of if the kid's ceiling is greater than that, at least right now, he's a power play specialist. And I think if that power play continues to struggle, which it has until today in this insane game where you had 15 goals scored, I still think you're going to see Spence maybe get a splash there. I still think you're going to see some other, maybe another piece get an opportunity on power play one before Doughty comes back. Like I'm not going to run out and grab him. I would imagine he's been snatched up in most leagues, regardless. To your point, Tej, I think maybe people were getting cold feet up until today, but like I don't know. I think there's a lot to be desired here from the power play one quarterback, uh, from the Kings in general, right? It looks like they're going to be playing a more offensive style of game,
Yeah.
but does that bode positivity for their entire defense or just Brent Clark? I'm not sure we have the answer to that right now.
Well, if that top power play keeps kind of moving the way it is, I think there's plenty to go around to the point where Clark's going to start to cash in on a lot of that. But I think we're looking at like 45 points kind of as like the pace until Doughty gets back, and we'll see what happens. I think there's upside for more, kind of by a wide margin. Like I feel like the spread on Brant Clark is so huge. Like part of me wants to be conservative. This is not a player that we've ever seen in a long stretch in the NHL. This is also not a player we've seen in this role ever before. So there's a lot of space that you can't really project.
I don't even have
And
to say. I don't even have
yeah,
to speak sometimes, Steve. You just read my mind. I was going to say this is a player that probably has a floor and a ceiling of 40 points, but could also have a floor and a ceiling of 50 points,
yep,
depending on when Doughty comes back and where he ends up slotting total time on ice. Do the shots on goal go up slightly as he gets more comfortable in the role? If Doughty takes a little bit longer to return than expected, like there's such a wide range of outcomes here,
yeah,
that it's hard to understand what the output's going to be. And like, okay, if he gets hot from today, you need to ride that for sure, but I would imagine it's going to be unsustainable, especially if the shots on goal don't go up, right? Like he's not going to get 3 power play assists every game. That's not going to happen, right?
no, nope. I mean, again, 8-7. That's not going to be every game.
Yeah, that game was
Yeah,
insane. Like,
God forbid it is every game and they wind up going back to the 1-3-1. That's not what we want. That's not what anyone
Kemper
wants.
owners had zero fun today. They had
Oh
zero
man,
fun, which
I'm playing against Kemper.
includes
Fantastic.
me in 3 leagues. Includes me.
Oh, brutal. Next up, we got Dougie Hamilton. He put up a bunch of zeros again tonight, at least in your point scoring categories, but 4 shots. And that's awesome. It was kind of strange to see no bang stats. Like the bash stats were all shots. So the blocks, the hits, zeros tonight. And did not find the scoreboard against Utah, but handed Utah their first loss. So good on you, New Jersey. There's a couple of redeeming qualities here when it comes to looking into Dougie Hamilton's underlying stats. His shots have went up, which is strange because he was always like a very high producer of shot volume. Shots on goal per 60, almost 10. He's on over a 300 shot pace. On ice shooting percentage is 12.36, and he hasn't gotten in on anything. So that's something I expect to change in a big way. So if Dougie Hamilton is somebody that's a buy low candidate, I still think you're going to have to pay a pretty penny to get him if you are going to try it, because I think anybody that drafted Dougie Hamilton drafted him high and drafted him with expectations that they feel they're still entitled to. So I don't know if they're ready to give up on Dougie Hamilton after getting nothing from him. Yeah,
he's gonna be
it's
fine.
going to be a hard buy.
He's going to be fine. Again, another team getting used to a new system and a new way of play and a new coach, he's going to be fine, especially with the way he shoots. That power play is going to get humming. Timo Meier looks like he's alive again, which is very positive for the New Jersey Devils. Hopefully Hughes can stay healthy because that guy's ceiling is absurd. He's surrounded by talent. Jesper Bratt is on that power play. Dougie Hamilton is going to be just fine. That is not a player to panic on. Like you said, if you can get savvy and get him from somebody for something, I would do it for sure. I'm a sucker for shots on goal.
Yeah.
You know,
Dougie is a darling for that.
He's a 60-point defenseman if he stays healthy, especially with the Hughes injury, the other Hughes, right? Like I don't see how he doesn't push the 60-point threshold if he's in that position all year, and with his deployment and his shots on goal, he's going to be fine.
I'll tell you, the New Jersey Devils, they are middle-ish of the pack, like on the back half of the first of like the top third in the league in terms of goals for per game. Goals against, they're doing fantastically.
They're always good at
they're
that.
So good. The goals for percentage is 65% on the team. So I expect a lot from the New Jersey Devils. And I think if you have somebody out there like Dougie Hamilton, for as much time on ice that he gets, it's going to be impossible for him to continue at this pace. So it's worth checking in on your Dougie Hamilton owner, just see where their panic level is. Just be prepared that like you can't really approach them. And I'm trying to think a little pragmatically here. Like you can't approach them with something that might be an offensive offer. I think you're still going to have to pay value, but you're going to get a little bit of a discount just based on what's happened for these first 5 games for the New Jersey Devils.
Tej, would you do Weegs for Dougie?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would
do that too. That's a respectable offer. That's a respectable
Dougie,
offer.
Like I would get Dougie. I would love that.
Yeah, that's what
like
I'm saying. Like trade
any
high
league
on
where
Flames, right?
Any league where Weegar is valued pretty highly, I think Dougie is also going to be valued pretty highly, because I think, the hits, the blocks, obviously it's a drop off from Weegs, but Dougie is going to give you other things that I think would even out a little bit. So maybe, after Calgary goes on another weird heater, maybe you can approach your Dougie Hamilton owner with a Weegar offer. But what I'm actually interested to hear is anybody that's made it this far in the episode, if you have been able to capitalize on any like buy low, sell high opportunities and stuff like that, throw it in the Discord, hit us up on Twitter. Like I always love hearing those kinds of, I was able to get, Jason Robertson today. I gave him Barrett Hayton, fleeces. Just let me know what you guys have been able to do.
That's coming over the next 2 weeks. You're getting
this is panic season, guys. For sure. So on that note, that's going to wrap up this episode of Tuesday Trends. But if you are panicking about anybody, we got another Tuesday Trends coming at you next Tuesday. So you can drop those guys in the chat right now, and if they stay cold for another week, that's just going to give us more ammunition to be talking about. I'm going to try and fix these tools so next week it's not so much broken stuff when I'm doing these visuals, but actually kind of liked having them. There's some value to be had there. I hope you guys dug this episode. We got the Craig, are you in on the weekend preview, or is that the other guys?
No, I'll be there with Jay and Alan. Hopefully do it Wednesday night after the bullshit show. So
right on. That's right. Yeah, bullshit show coming at you on Wednesday. If you guys want to hang out, that's not something we prepare for. It's not something that we write notes or do anything. We're just getting drunk, hanging out, watching hockey when we can. So we'll see what happens there.
Good slate of games on Wednesday too. So join us.
That was the wrong one. Raj has like 100 million songs. Yeah. All right. I'll me out. 5-hole fantasy hockey. That is Tuesday Trends. Once again, you guys can meet us in the Discord. Tons of channels there. You guys are welcome to hop in the in-game discussion. We're talking about every game as it's going on. Hockey Talk, Twitter Retweet, which is maybe my favorite channel. We anything that happens on Twitter, we post it in there and then we talk about it. So like injuries or rumors or whatever have it. Trade Talk, Ad Drop, Starter Bench, all sorts of channels in there. You guys are welcome to join the other 2,600 members. Until then, we love you guys.
See you soon. so glad that that's back in there.